Mute.
I'm gonna have some fun with this one here.
Woo-hoo!
In the morning, when I wake up, all I want is Mary Joanna. In the evening, when I'm thinking, all I want is Mary Joanna. If you look in my eyes, you will see what I've done. Every minute, every hour of every day. But life is like a smoke. In the end, I'm gonna choke. So all I do is live my life from day to day.
Oh my God, you know you better watch yourself because I know you're waiting on that one. Cause I'm telling you consonant. Cause you know the one that I take off for a run. You let me see you do that run. Run the one that they clan and the one that done. Cause I know you cannot be me now what you wanna do. Cause I'm about to break it down me. Cause that's only cause you know you cannot fade me now. Let you wanna. You better back it down now because I'm telling you. What bar, bun bar, cause I cannot wonder. Because you know you like the way you put that pick up. Cause I'm telling all your fools what happened. And in a mercy. Now what you wanna do and in a mercy. Now what you wanna do and in a mercy. Now what you wanna do and in a mercy.
If you look in my eyes, you will see what I've done. Every minute, every hour of every day. But life is like a smoke. In the end, I'm gonna choke. So all I do is live my life from day to day. You got to lick it, stick it, bend it, crease it, stack it, burn it, pack it, roll it, poke it, roach it, smoke it, then you pass it to me. You got to lick it, stick it, bend it, crease it, stack it, burn it, pack it, roll it, poke it, roach it, smoke it, then you pass it to me.
Come on, baby girl, let's get it going on. I'ma hit the highway and do it my way. It ain't no game, girl, so I don't play games. I keep it up straight, right up in your face. So make your mind up, cause life is too short. I got the vest on, boy, put your belt on. Stop acting all cool like Kanye West, boy. You'll be riding through the wire and the camera get on fire. You don't want that, no, I don't want that, no. This goes out to pimps and chicks, so slow. Hit the backseat when you're doing the licking, kissing, squeezing. Do the damn thing, man.
You got to lick it, stick it, bend it, crease it, stack it, burn it, pack it, roll it, poke it, roach it, smoke, Mary Joanna to me. You got to lick it, stick it, bend it, crease it, stack it, burn it, pack it, roll it, poke it, roach it, smoke, Mary Joanna to me. You got to lick it, stick it, bend it, crease it, stack it, burn it. All I want is roach and smoke, Mary Joanna to me. In the evening, stick it, bend it, crease it, stack it, burn it, pack it, roll it, poke it, roach and smoke, Mary Joanna to me.
And good evening. There's the marijuana song. That's from 2016, and it's East West, of course. Always East West, because we own the copyright on that. Well, Heath does anyway, and he gives me the rights to do it. In fact, I might buy the copyright off him for some of these and see. Then at least he's making some money, and I've paid for it. Anyway, good evening. Welcome to Raconteursnews. It's 24th of January in the year of our Lord 2023, if it is our Lord. Or in fact, in the year of our, in fact, you're probably going to have to say now, in future, you're probably going to have to say in the year of our Lady, or in the year of our they, or a year of our them, or whatever. But anyway, we'll not get bogged down in that. So, how are you doing? I hope you've had a great weekend. Good evening to my esteemed colleague who's along with me tonight. He's right down in the corner of his screen. He must be looking at something quite intently. It's Jimmy Hagan all the way over there in Ireland. Good evening, Jimmy. How you doing, mate?
All good, Jay. We've got an interesting chap to talk to tonight now, and he was just saying there in the chat that he's got sound issues, but I don't think so, because if he had sound issues, he wouldn't be able to join the stream if there was a problem with the microphone. So it's just because he's just muted at this end, and we'll just bring him in now in a second.
Yeah, we'll get him on in just we'll get him on in just a second. So you stay
some
here,
housekeeping
Gareth.
to take care of, I believe.
If there's anything at your end, we'll sort them out when you get on. We'll be on in a couple of minutes. Just a couple of things I just want to address before we move on to tonight's subject and our guest Gareth. If you remember, Jimmy was talking about last week, and it was the reason why he was late, weren't it? Yeah, that's right. You were with Gareth. That's the reason why you were late. So we'll be catching up on that and getting the full skinny off Gareth. Just a couple of things I just wanted to mention. I just wanted to show you, just so that you can see that the StreamYard. I asked for donations before Christmas. I didn't really ask very hardly, and I weren't, But what I want to do this year is I want to try and get enough donations in so that I can get my money back from, because I've paid for the StreamYard. I'll just show you. Let me just show you. Present. Where's that fucking come up? Oh, present. Why is stop screen on? I don't know. What were that fucker? There we go. Oh, that's what it were. I just want to show you this so that you can see that that is the invoices that I get on StreamYard, and as you can see, I paid £336 $336 on January 14th. Last year I paid $45.24 in July, and that was for half a year to add on the extra seats that I get so that Jimmy could be on, and Jimmy and Robert could have a seat and all that. So they've added that on. Normally it's $240. So with the extras that I've got on, it's $336 now. I've paid that. We've received a few donations already, one or two donations already. So this year if I'm asking for donations, you can see why I've paid this. This has been paid. I've paid $300, which equates to £271.79. So that's just for information. So if I do ask you for a donation, then that is what it's for. It's essentially for that. $336 that were not quid, 271 quid. But anyway, there you go. So if I ask you, then please do. If you can't, please don't. I don't want anybody that's in a situation that I don't want anybody to contribute anything. But if you can, then please send us an email and give us a contribution. I'll get something set up where I can get donations done at some point. But anyway, I just wanted to also add that we have got some guests coming up. I'm away next week, so Jimmy's going to be here doing the show. Jimmy will be in charge. Don't know what he's got lined up for next week, but I'm sure it'll be awesome. But the week after, on Tuesday, the 7th of February, Ben Emily Jones is going to be with us. And I'm also in talks with Bart Sibrel from A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. He got in touch with me this week. He actually got in touch with me this week and asked if he could come on because he's got some new information. He's got some new videos that he can release from people that have now died, and so he can now release these videos that he wants to come on and talk about that. So there's one or two people died who have given testimony, who were part of or were related to part of the Apollo program, and I'm going to be sorting that out. He's in the Philippines at the moment, so when it's nighttime here, it's daytime there, and when it's daytime here, it's nighttime there. It's a bit weird, so it might be a 12 o'clock kickoff, midday kickoff, but I'll be getting that one. I'll be getting that sorted as well. I've also got a couple more guests that are lined up. James Perloff will be coming on soon, just sorting out the date with him, and also Lou Collins will be coming on in the not too distant future. So anyway, that's what I've been doing today. So I've been sorting some stuff out and getting some people who are going to be coming on, and I'm going to start getting some guests on again. It's not going to be all time because I like this. I like to be able to talk, and there's not many people that I can talk to. So It's all going to be good. It's all coming up in the next few weeks. So I'm like I say, I'm away next week, but Jimmy will be here doing the shows, and no doubt rope somebody in on that. So Jimmy, how are you doing, mate?
All good to go here. It looks like Gareth has got his audio figured out. So it's something about switches being the wrong way around. Shall we bring Gareth in now and get rolling?
I think we should. Yeah, Gareth.
Yes.
Are you going to pop him on? There we go.
Anyway, how are you, Gareth? Welcome.
How are you, Jimmy? How are you, Jason? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, that's not too bad.
We've got a bit of feedback. We've got a bit of feedback. Have you got a headphone set you could put in, or is it what you're using exactly? Sorry.
That's what I'm using a headset, but this app is picking up the speakers as the mic and the mic as the speakers.
Oh, right. Okay.
Oh, I see.
Oh, you are in Ireland, aren't you, though?
So we're getting feedback down through the headset and into the. Shouldn't there be some noise cancelling? I'll have a look in the background and see if there's any noise cancelling going. Other than that, you could turn your speaker down a little bit, Gareth. If you turn your.
If I turn my headset all the way down, I then can't hear you at all.
Okay. Do you have a mute button handy on
Why
your?
don't you pull the? Have you got speakers on your device and a microphone? It might just be better without the headphones in.
Right. The problem I seem to be having is that it's giving me two different listings for my microphone and two different listings for my headset, and then with my monitor, that's a TV, so there's speakers on that get picked up. So I'm switching between the different speakers it's giving me now to try and see if I can get rid of the echo.
Well, that seems a lot better to me, does it, you, Jim?
Yeah, I'm not getting that feedback now as badly anymore. So that's I think we can work with that. And I suppose if it gets pretty bad, what we could do is if you turn your mic off when one of us is speaking, maybe. Do you see there's a button at the bottom there for where you can mute your mic?
He's got it now.
Oh, I think so. That's not too bad.
Have it now.
Yeah, no,
it's okay
with
the mic. I just can't quite. Fucking hell! It's a nightmare, isn't it? It's a nightmare. Did you not give?
I used to have that.
If you want to give me 5 minutes, and I'll just try changing around the speaker and in the audio here again, and see if it makes a difference.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. We can do that. Yeah. We can do that.
No. Is that any better?
Well, it depends.
I suppose. Yeah.
We're still getting a bit of feedback, Gareth. We're still getting a bit of feedback. We should have come on earlier, really, shouldn't we? And done this beforehand, rather than doing it on the show. So, what is it you're using?
It's a Bluetooth headset.
Right, and connected to
the PC.
The PC, and the PC's not got separate microphone and separate speakers.
No, I have 5 children in the house. I tend not to have microphones around the place.
Okay. Right, so it'll probably just have to be muting when he's not talking, yeah?
Yeah, that's probably going to be the way around the issue then. So, yeah, I think that will work just like that. We'll just have to be aware of unmuting if one of us is talking, and that'll solve the problem. There
you go then. Right, I'd suggest you two get into it because you know Gareth's situation. Let's get into it. I'll just mute my mic so that I'm definitely not going to be interfering. But yeah, go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah, well, I'll just introduce. This is Jason, by the way, Gareth, and I've already sort of like done a semi-introduction last week after the case was over, and I got in, so everybody would have had a bit of a background in your story. So, but just a little reminder, like Gareth is being brought through the court system here at the moment under the new legislation which has been brought in this country to criminalize certain types of speech, and in particular, the item that Gareth has been brought into the courts under is the particular item where your speech may cause fear in a person to actually be fearful, right? Basically, like so. It doesn't specify the extent of fear, any type of fear at all. So, like, and there doesn't even have to be a situation where that there was anything really threatening said, like if somebody just, as is in this case, like, which is regarding a local politician here by the name of Micheál Carrigy. And I've learned a few interesting details from Gareth there last week as well too, that Gareth may not be the only one who's having similar issues with this politician, but we will get into that at some stage again. So that's the basic background of this particular story. It's all around the new laws and the way I see it is, it's kind of like laws which are going to try to stifle speech in this country. And we can go on a few different angles with this, like, but I see this case as a particular test case, or test cases, I should say. But we know some of the other defendants aren't here to speak, so we can't speak totally for them. Like, but maybe Gareth can speak on these issues in a little bit more depth. I don't know. So would that be a fair summation of what this is about, Gareth?
Yeah, Jimmy, that's basically it. There was no threats of violence. There was no weapons or badgering anybody or chasing or anything like that. It was simply I asked a question, and the response I got led me to call a certain person an effing disgrace. And that has landed me in court now for a total of just going shy of 15 hours now in waiting times and nothing being done. They just seem to, as I said to you when you arrived, don't be surprised if we're the last people leaving. And like you say, and I think it was after 7:30 when we got out. And at that point, the judge had already left. I had to call for the judge to be brought back in because they insisted they called my name. But if anybody knew the courthouse, they'd know I was sitting within 10 feet of the door all day long because I couldn't sit in the waiting room because they don't call your name. There's no intercom working.
It was interesting that at around, was it 4:15 or 4:30, I went out for a cigarette, and I noticed that the plaintiff was saying goodbye to his solicitor and to his brother, who is the district sergeant, I suppose, of the county, and like they were suggesting that, like, your case was called at 5:15, which, if I remember correctly, was what the judge had said, that your case was called at 5:15. So surely, in my way of thinking, Micheál Carrigy should have still been there for your particular case, because if I understand correctly, yours was not the only case that was up that day, as you were trying to tell me there last Thursday, maybe. I got an update from you about other cases which may have been going on similar issue.
Yeah, that's correct, Jimmy. Basically, the way I see it, and to shed a bit of light on it, is that the other individual isn't named at all in any of the paperwork. So therefore, it's the guard himself who's prosecuting me. Now, there was no guards involved. The guard showed up at my house 2 weeks later and asked me questions. And I asked them, was a crime committed? And they said, no, we just wanted to find out, was there an altercation? And I said, no, I simply had a question to ask. And he went the other way. And they said, no, that's fine. And they left. So his name isn't mentioned in any of the paperwork. And I believe this is part of the ploy, that politicians can bring multiples of people through the court system without actually having to show up in court, because the Gardaí, who are politicised, are doing their job, are doing that part for them. And because of that, it's just the individual, my name that appears on the paperwork, me against the guard, But that guard has taken a case, having never spoke to me, never asked me for a statement, never asked anything at all of me, and just summons me to the court. And I've showed up now twice, and twice I've been left waiting for the last person on the day. And as you've seen, Jimmy, it's a horrible atmosphere in there. It's not a public courtroom. You're not allowed to sit in the courtroom. You have to sit outside on a balcony, which has no chairs, so you have to sit on the floor. And I've 3 ruptured discs in my back. I end up in agony from sitting on that floor. There's no heating. The toilet's locked, so you have to go next door to the courthouse to use the toilet. All of this enables them to call your name and say you weren't there, and then, as you've seen in my case, Jimmy, issue a bench warrant for your arrest, and you have to argue with the judge to say, no, I've been here all day. It's absolutely ridiculous what's going on, and I believe there's many more people going through the exact same situation as me. And
You were saying, Gareth, you were saying that there were 6 other cases being brought before the courts by this Senator Carnegie. Is that true?
yes, I have been told from an individual that he's trying to get us all together, and he says he has 5 other people that have been brought through the exact same predicament as me, ranging from different areas of the county. So that in itself to me is unbelievable. Now I'm still trying to arrange that because I'm without transport at the moment. But it's shocking. And it's the same, from what I know, it's the same situation. No names are appearing. It's just the guard against the person, even though the guards were never involved at any point.
Maybe Jason might know a little bit more on this matter. Like Jason, if you want to unmute for a second, if there's a complaint made to a guard or to a guard at a guard station, surely they would be a plaintiff named and a defendant named. But I seen the paperwork from the police report of the crime. And the plaintiff is named as just the IC, or the IP, the injured party. Does that sound normal to you, Jay?
I don't know what the legal system is in Ireland. I don't know whether it's pretty much the same as it is here in England. But usually, if somebody makes a complaint, the police then investigate that complaint, and if there's any weight to that complaint, then they will put together all the evidence that they've got and send it to the CPS, and the CPS will then decide who charges. It used to be a police sergeant, a desk sergeant, that used to decide whether you were charged with an offence, but now it's the CPS. So I think that there's no real room for that sort of thing in the British system. I can't for the police to be able to. I know they can use the courts. And try to force people, use them and just fucking basically harass people and bully them and that sort of thing. But as for them doing it on their own, I've not heard of that. Although I know they would do it, they could get away with it. So, but yeah. I'm trying to work out. I'm trying to work out. I'm sure I'm going fucking deaf. But. So what's happened here is that somebody has made a complaint against Gareth. Is that am I right in this? So Gareth's done something. Someone's made a complaint against Gareth to the Gardaí about something that Gareth said. The Gardaí have then gone. Have the Gardaí then interviewed him and under caution and all these things? Have all these things happened? And has he been charged with anything? Does he have a charge sheet?
No, Jason. As I said, the only thing was that the guards arrived at my house about 3 weeks later, 10:30 at night, and asked me had an altercation taken place, and I said no. They asked for my contact details, and I refused because there was no crime had been committed, and I didn't feel the need to have to give out my information. And that was that. They said that was fine, and they left. The next thing was one day before the 6 months was up on the statute of limitations, I got the letter in the post. I actually got 2 of them saying that I was being charged with 2 offences for the same location. The only reason why them charges have come about is because of a massive exaggeration on the other party's side to try and claim crowds of people were around, claim I went out of my way to get in his face as such. All of this would be contradicted with CCTV footage, which the guards have already told me they've obtained. But
Have they shown you that? Have you been present? Because usually, if they say they've got CCTV, now what they should do is they should interview you under caution, then present you with this CCTV, and then ask for your side of the story. I mean, obviously, it's perfectly you're right whether you decide if you're going to say anything or not. In which case, I wouldn't say anything to the police anyway, no matter what it was. But they didn't present you with this. They didn't ask you about it. They didn't ask you questions about, anything about this CCTV that they claim they have. They've not shown it you at all.
No, they haven't shown anything to me at all. Jimmy was present with me, and I actually had to ask the judge for the CCTV footage because it's still outstanding. Even though my first court appearance in November, I asked for all evidence to be presented against me because I didn't know what I was being charged with.
Yeah, that's called discovery. I mean, that's easy enough. You go to, you can easily do that. That's pretty simple. If you got somebody, you can go to a court and you can get a court order for discovery on any case at all. If you went to if it's in a magistrate's court, you could get it from a magistrate's court. And I don't know how. But it sounds to me like there's some fucking real shit going on here, some real underhand stuff.
Yeah, normally they would be an interview, because obviously, you would have to incriminate yourself. Basically, that's my imagination. That's how it always goes. How the type of charge that would be levied against you, would depend on your responses to certain allegations that were made against you, so. But because the fact that there was no Garda interview says to me that this is not following correct procedure and standards,
Oh dear, we seem to have lost Jimmy. Is it Jimmy that's gone or me? You froze then, Jimmy.
Really? Everything's looking okay here.
Well, it froze for me. Did it freeze for you, Gareth?
No, I was okay.
Right.
Jason, yeah.
Right. Yeah, so Gareth, obviously, you were never interviewed by the police regarding these allegations, and that would seem to me to be a necessary step in the process of what charges were going to be levied against you.
Well,
and it seems like this.
It has to be. Is it? I can't quite work out how you're finding yourself having to go to the court. Have they sent you a summons through the post, or how did you get a summons to court?
Yeah, I just received the summons by standard post. 1 day before their 6 months kind of time limitation was up.
Yeah.
From that point on, I've had no contact with the guards, nothing at all. I had no idea what I was being charged with until I actually showed up in court. Because the paperwork they send out, they don't name anybody. They just say that I'm accused of under that section 6, which is basically anything from intoxication to saying something.
So it's public order offence. It's not really. Yeah. It's not even a criminal offence. It's sort of like a bylaw, isn't it? Really, you can only bound you up. You can only be bound over to keep the peace. And if you accept that bind, I mean, it sounds to me like it's not even a proper offence. It's just sort of like a bylaw, a summary offence, a really, really low quality summary offence, a bit like a fixed penalty.
Well, that's one way of looking at it, but at the same time, I wouldn't accept the 6-point penalty either because I've done absolutely nothing wrong. So
I don't expect you to. Don't.
No, I understand. But what I'm getting at is I'm going to keep pursuing it until I get the CCTV footage. because there's claims made against me that are blatantly untrue. And the CCTV footage within the first line of the statement would show that, well, for instance, I was in the shopping centre all morning. It's things like that. It would show that it wasn't a planned meeting. It wasn't that I went out of my way to get into his face or I ran across a road or anything. I was leaving a premises as he was entering, and I introduced myself, asked if I could ask a question. He didn't like the question I asked, told me to F off, and I called him an effing disgrace. And this is where the charges have come from.
Right. Now, see, now I'm listening. I'm listening. I'm getting some sort of right. So he told you to fuck up. So I don't know who this bloke is. Tell me who this bloke is. Is it a politician or something like that?
Neil Carrigy. He's a senator in the Shannon here in Ayr. He used to be a politician, and he failed to get re-elected, but he was nominated for senator then. So he's kind of like the Shannon would be the equivalent of your House of Lords, for example.
Right. So he's a politician then, essentially, is what he
Basically,
is.
basically.
A politician. So whatever you're the electorate. So whatever you can say whatever you want to anybody. You can say whatever you want. And what I don't understand is how did they know who you were in order to be? Because if you've had this disagreement or this interaction with this politician. And you've told him to fuck off. He's a fucking disgrace or whatever, and he's told you to fuck off, and that's it. You've disappeared. I don't understand how they got your details to be able to serve this upon you.
Right. So from what I've been able to find out is they actually got my partner's details from her employer, and were able to trace me that way.
Okay, so they got your partner's details from where? Sorry,
from her employer.
From her employer. So there's a data protection breach there all along, isn't there?
Yeah, I've always said that. So they got my partner's details, and then they arrived out at the house. And as I said, from that they asked me for my contact details. So I refused. I asked, had a crime been committed? They said no. They were just checking to see because there was reports of an altercation. I says there was no altercation. I says there was an exchange of words. I said, and that was it. So basically, I had been in the shopping centre for a completely different reason that morning, and the shopping centre was completely empty. Had been all morning, and me and my partner had spent the morning going around each shop almost and spoke to the owners and the staff and everything else. And it was when I was leaving the shopping centre, just after receiving bad news at the very same moment, he was walking in. So I decided now was my opportunity to ask him a question because it directly affects my family.
You're right. Anyway, innit? It's your right. He's a politician. He's put himself in that position. Nobody put him there. He's putting himself in that position. He's a politician, and he's having to account for, obviously, his actions because you're not happy about him. A constituent, I would imagine. So then I don't see what fucking problem is. It's a joke, really. But yeah, carry on. Sorry. I'm sorry to keep interrupting you.
Yeah, no, so that was basically it. I was walking out as he was walking in, and I stopped. I introduced myself. I asked him, could I ask him a question? He said yes. I asked him basically what was giving him the right to put people out of work with no notice just because of a medical status. And did he realise how much it was affecting the families of the town? I have 5 children myself. And that very morning, my partner had just been put off the roster due to COVID regulations at the time. We have another court case with the workplace relations here, and that's going in front of an adjudicator in March. We just got notice today of that.
Good.
That's the only good thing I have. Other than that, I'm being absolutely dragged through the court system for simply asking a question. And because he couldn't answer it, he put his mask on, told me to F off. I told him he was an effing disgrace. And that was it.
So it's interesting. It's interesting that he used the very word um, that he's accusing you of causing him to be fearful for his life or safety or whatever. That he was the one that instigated the fuck offs, right? That's very, very interesting.
Well, that's it, Jimmy. And as I said to you, he has accused me of running across the road and running into his face and screaming profanities at him and everything else. I was there supporting my partner who had just been taken off her roster, who had just been taken out of her job of 3 years with no notice, no anything. Our wages stopped the week before Christmas with 5 kids at home in a privately rented house. We don't get any state help. We don't get any help whatsoever. Not fuel allowance, not ESB, not anything. So I was stressed leaving. I had an agitated tone on me, but for no way did I chase anybody. And now I'm coming up on my third court appearance and still haven't had the opportunity to actually address the judge and tell her that this is an absolute farce. I want to see the CCTV footage of me running because
Yeah,
that
or
would
at
get
least of
me.
some altercation which may have been happening at the centre, which I assume will show very, very little of an altercation.
Yes, and going back to Jason's point about following procedures, then that begs the question: did the guards actually look at the CCTV footage, or did they just take a politician's word for it and then decide to target the citizen? Because that's
Yeah,
dangerous too.
and I mean, what happened to you that day, like with your partner that had you in the shopping centre in the first place? That's another story as well too, another aggravating point in the matter, because like maybe you could tell everybody about what your partner was taken off the roster for, like regarding the medical, the pandemic sort of like. Restrictions and mandates, because that in itself is another interesting point to this case, like and which resulted in the situation you find yourself in now as well too.
Right. So basically, what happened was she works in a bakery coffee shop inside a shopping centre, and she's surrounded by perspex screens. It's a small work area. It's like a narrow corridor. She's got cold fridges in front of her with fresh cream, and then she has the hot ovens behind her for apple cakes and things like that. And she was never told she must wear the mask or anything like that. If she was going through the restaurant, she would put a visor on. But in the actual takeaway part at the front there, she was surrounded by screens. She worked on her own. There was no need for a mask. On this particular day, a week before Christmas last year, her area manager was walking past the store and decided to start screaming at her to wear a mask. When he realized she didn't have one, he went into the local supermarket and bought a handful and told her to pick one. So she didn't like the way that conversation went. She didn't enjoy being yelled at, and she reported it to the store manager. The store manager said there was nothing they could do. Go to the area manager. So she went to the area manager, and the area manager said he would come down the following morning and have a meeting with her about it. The following morning arrived, and the area manager only wanted to talk about the fact she wasn't wearing a mask. So my partner put forward that wearing the mask is not practical in the bakery because she's got cold refrigerated fridges in front of her and hot ovens behind her. And if she's wearing a visor, the condensation on the inside of it causes it to run down and drip off when she's leaning in over a cold fridge, thereby going on to the fresh baked pastries. So she didn't wear a mask for this reason. It was hygienic. Um, like that, she worked all through COVID, not a problem, right up until the 21st of December last year, or sorry, 2021. And the next, when she went in that next day, she was basically told, wear a mask or you're being taken off the roster. and she refused to wear the mask because, again, there's no law that said she had to. She works on her own. She's in an enclosed space. She has perspex all around her. And because of the environment she works in, hot on one side, cold on the other, and coffee machine at the end with a milk frother, it's not practical to wear a visor. So she had just come out of the shopping centre. I'd been waiting for her. We'd taken a walk around the shops. We had the altercation with Carrigy. Basically, told them what I did. We walked across the road and sat in the car to try to figure out what we were going to do. We have 5 children, no rent allowance, no state subsidies on anything. I'm supposed to be getting disability, but that's another story again. So I get no payment at all off the social welfare. My partner has to claim for me, which is a reduced rate. So we're sitting in the car trying to figure out what we're going to do. And we get word then that the roster for the job has been changed and her hours have been completely removed. So we contacted the HR department, and it was after Christmas before they got back to us, which meant we had nowhere to go for emergency funds. We couldn't go to anybody because everywhere was closed for Christmas and New Year. Then once we got in contact with HR, we sent them a solicitor's letter asking for the reason for her being removed from the roster and why no notice was given. And her employer decided to ignore all of our solicitor's letters, and in turn contacted my partner and said that because she hadn't been in contact with them, they had deemed that she had abandoned her role and was now being removed from employment. And our solicitor sent more letters in, and this went back and forward for a month and a half. And then her employer insisted that we must go through the disciplinary process. So that involves an interview with the area manager again, an interview with the HR manager, and an interview with the payroll manager. So my partner had all these interviews, and at the end of 4 months, bearing in mind we still weren't getting any income, and at the end of 4 months they decided to find their disciplinary grievance procedure inconclusive. So my partner then decided that she wasn't happy with that decision and escalated their internal complaints process so that she would have a meeting with the managing director, the owner of the company. So she arranged that, and she had the meeting with him, and he agreed that it was ridiculous that she had been taken off the roster and not being paid, and he would do his best to have her put on the roster the following week. My partner agreed to go back to work, basically, because she loves her job. She absolutely loves her job. But she went back to work on the promise that any outstanding monies would be paid back to us. And of course, it wasn't. And at the end of 2.5 months, so having went through the grievance procedure for 5 months, she then went back to work for 2.5 months, expecting to be paid what she would have been rostered for because we had no income during this time. And the employer then decided that they had put it down as unpaid leave. And that was an end to the matter. So unfortunately, at that point, my partner had no choice but to take constructive dismissal and take a case against them for basically unfair dismissal.
Right, but at least then through the unfair dismissal, you were able to apply for benefits then, like, but it's atrocious, like what was going on over these.
No, Jimmy, actually, we're not. The problem is because my partner went back to work, she has now not been unemployed long enough for us to claim anything. So it will be next year because she has to be unemployed. So it'll actually be later this summer before we can claim anything. So we've already went without income for 6 months. Then we were on a reduced income for the following 6 months. and now we can't get any of the state supports for cost of living because we're not unemployed long enough. So, and as I said, I'm supposed to be on
Is that how the
disability.
benefit system works over there? Is there no contingency, you know, sort of for, that's how the benefit system works, is that you're stuck for 6 months now. You can't get any help at all for 6 months. Is that how it is?
You can go to your community welfare officer for an emergency social welfare payment. This would be the same.
Sorry, who?
Your community
Community
welfare.
It'd be sort of like a branch of the social welfare, but it works under the HSE, which is the Health Service Executive. And it's kind of like you get the payment, but through them, I think, but not officially through direct channels.
Right. Okay.
Would that be correct? Yes. Gareth?
Yes, that's correct. So that's the payment we had to go on to for 6 months, which was only a half payment. And the reason for that was because my partner was still on the books with her employer, so therefore wasn't unemployed. So but they only gave us.
But that time was then accounted for as unpaid leave.
Yes.
Right. So you've got like a 6 month period where there's absolutely nothing. You can't get anything from Dole because they won't give you anything because she's officially still got a job. But you're sort of in limbo. It's like a little grey area, isn't it, that people get lost in?
Well, that's what's hit us the hardest. We've had to give up everything, the car, any sort of comforts. We literally can't do anything. We're trapped in our house because we can go for a walk if it's not raining. But other than that, we have absolutely no spare expenditure. And it's simply that we've fallen through every crack there was. It literally is. The timing of her coming out of employment, we missed out on everything, because had she have stayed kind of in that limbo space where she was still employed but getting state assistance, had we have stayed on that scheme, we would have got extra help at Christmas. Right. But because my partner wanted to work and she went back to work for 2 months, that then invalidated us being able to go on that scheme, because I think it's 6 or 9 months you have to be unemployed.
What? How many children? You've got children, haven't you? You said, how many children have you got? Five. You've got 5 children. And are we talking school-age children?
Oh, yeah. 17 down to 5.
So is there any? There's nothing, because if you've got children, look, my experience with the benefits is long past. It's a long time ago. The last time the thing I get now is PIP, and I was supposed to be. Mine ran out in December 2021, and I was supposed to be February 2022. That was when it was. Then it got extended to February. Then it got extended to middle, and now it's been extended. We're extended to December in summer, and now I'm in limbo because I haven't. It's now the time that they extended it to has dissipated. It's gone. I'm still getting paid, and they're still paying for my car, but I can't get a disabled badge because I don't have the piece of paper that says I'm disabled. That ran out in 2021. So I've got a piece of paper. So any of the things that, you know, any of the good parts of being disabled, you know, parking fucking anywhere, you know, getting, you know, you get VIP trip, you're not getting any of that because you're not officially disabled, even though I'm fucking walking towards people with one leg. You know, you can see it's my fake leg. If I haven't got that fucking piece of paper, I'm not disabled. And this is what they do to you. It's like making your status just completely disappear. You understand what I mean, Gareth? I mean, this is what they seem to be doing with you. Are they leaving you? Is it lawful for them to leave you with no money when you've got 5 kids?
Jason, just listening to you there, and I get what you're saying. I've been through the exact same thing. Jimmy knows this. I have 3 discs in my lower back that have no fluid in them, and the middle of the 3 discs had ruptured out into my spinal column, and I spent my life savings to go privately and get operated on so I could walk again. They operated on the center disc, but not the one above it and the one below it, which means all the pressure now is on the other 2 discs, and they have now bulged out. I haven't been able to go back to work since the operation because they only did 1 disc. So I have been applying for disability since 2017. And on March 2020, I was at the final point where I was to meet with a social welfare's doctor to have my assessment done. And they cancelled that appointment due to COVID. And they sent me out a letter to say that they would make a new appointment in due course. A couple of weeks after that, they told all the social welfare staff to work from home. So it was about 8 months later when I was able to contact social welfare and find out the status of my disability claim. And at that point, I was told a supervisor would call me back. So I said, okay. I rang again and I was told that the staff member that answered was working from home and had no access to my file, but somebody would call me. And this went on and on until eventually I got a local CD to contact the social welfare on my behalf and find out the status of my disability claim, only to be told it has been closed and I need to start again. So it took me 4 years to go from the first step to the last step. Now they've closed my case and I need to start again. So this is why I don't get a social welfare payment. So my partner claims for me, but she can't claim for me under disability because I haven't went through that process with them. So like yourself, I'm in a grey area where I am and I amn't disabled, depending on whether you're reading it on a piece of paper or looking at me. And all of this just contributes to absolutely smashing us. We are absolutely, there's nothing, we don't know who else to contact and where else to go. We've been onto the social welfare. They want that we have to reapply. That's fine and good. We can reapply. But what was the last 4 years then? Because we've been put through 4 years of this. And now they're saying, right, start again. And this is where I'm completely lost because I don't understand how it would be better next time around. And you have people that will say, well, what about your children's allowance? You have 5 children. As I stated, I'm in a privately rented house, which means every penny of our children's allowance every month goes directly to the landlord. We don't see it. So we literally live every week off what we have.
Yeah, I was just inquiring. That's all. I just thought you're having with you having kids. I thought that they can't possibly leave. It sounds to me like that all these things are all put in place and they all sort of they don't quite overlap, do they? So if you go, you can't transition from one thing to another, and there seems to be all these different rules in place that make it they sort of make out they're being generous with you, and they're helping you out and doing stuff, but the hoops you have to jump through in order to be able to do it. And I've not done it for a long time, so it must be horrendous. And I can only go on from my PIP thing here, but it must be absolutely horrendous. Is there no organisations around you, local organisations that perhaps could give you some advice and some help? Even if it's going into somewhere that can get you some, perhaps, I don't know, somebody with a phone number that's got some nude pictures of somebody that can get someone to speed someone up. I don't know, anything. Is there any organisations local to you that could do anything?
Well, that's it, Jason. We've reached out. We've contacted basically every political party around us. We've contacted other volunteer groups. We've had people call out to the house and see firsthand that we're not exaggerating our situation. We have literally applied for everything, and we're just in that grey area where, because of the situation we're in, that she came out of work and went back to work and went back out of work, she had kind of used up her kind of benefits with the emergency payment, and then came back out of work and then had to go on to an assistance payment. So the assistance payment is basically when you haven't paid enough taxes in to go onto the full rate of benefit. You go onto your assisted payment. So how do I quantify this? An adult would be, I think it's something like €220 per week, whereas I only get 142. Because if I go down as unemployed, they'll force me to work. And if I do anything like that, I can't walk. I can't do anything with my children. I'm laying in bed. I'm chewing painkillers all day long. I've hot towels around my ankles. I'm in agony. So, like that, just in a grey area. If I was unemployed, financial situation improves, but I can't be unemployed because I have a medical issue that I can't work. I can't tie shoelaces.
Sorry, I just wanted to make a comment that it always seems to be people that are least equipped to be able to cope with it. This sort of stress, they target this sort of stress on, because for you to be in, I know what it's like to have a disability, and I know what it's like to, fucking just think, oh, there's just nothing. You know what I mean? It just seems that this sort of stress gets piled upon people that are not able, that shouldn't be under that sort of stress. They're the people we should be wrapping in cotton wool. The injured and the disabled and kids. You've got five kids. Five kids.
Yeah, the kids is the one that I'm thinking of, and they would be for all the talk that these politicians like to do and say about how much they like to protect children, and this is one example of what 5 children are having to go through, I'm sure they've been taken care of as best as possible under the circumstances. And I know Gareth has told me that him and his partner go hungry, just so the kids have got enough in their bellies, and any parent would do that, but it's the children in this situation which are probably just I don't know how much they understand about what's going on. I'm pretty sure the 17-year-old has a fair grasp, but the little ones probably don't understand entirely what's going on completely in this situation, I'd imagine.
Well, the younger boys, they're just used to daddy being here all the time. The older ones, they remember when I was out working all the time. I was working 9 till 9, 9 till 10, any hours I could get. I'd be working in a garage, I'd be working door to door. Didn't bother me as long as I was out working. My situation with my back, that's what led me to have to come out of work. I just haven't been able to get back. The kids know, they've seen me. I've tried to take up side jobs just to supplement the income. And for the 2 days of income, I end up 7 days lying in bed because I'm in agony and can't put weight on my legs. And it's absolutely brutal, because then your kids are coming in and they want to show you stuff. They want to do things. We would have been a very outgoing family, out to forests, out for walks, going exploring, things like that. But I haven't been able to do most of that now. And that's the big thing. That's what I think affects my family more than anything. The freedom of being
and this situation over a bloody mask of all things, a bloody thing that was never going to work in the first place. It's just ridiculous, man.
Well, it's not even that. We made the argument for, instead of a mask, a visor. But as you can imagine, if you have a visor on and you go to a hot oven and open the hot oven, and then you go to the cold fridge, condensation will form on your mask, and the water droplets will just run off. So exactly what is it containing when the runoff is going to go all over the produce?
I know, but the fact of the matter is, she stood her ground on a matter like, which is a just one. This whole thing around masks has been totally debunked, and about, they were never meant to work. It's just really an instrument to show compliance. Basically, that's what it is. And if
Well,
you don't comply and this is one of the mitigating factors in this whole thing with your case with Michal Carrigy that day, all this going around in the background with your wife, and getting booted out unjustly like that, and then you encounter one of the local senators who was up in the Shannon, sort of like pounding the desk and saying, we have to mandate jabs, and we have to mandate this, that, and the other for everybody who's working, for children, for everybody to have to come under the clutch of these mandates. This is what this whole thing is about, Jay. This Michal Carrigy, and this is one of the mitigating factors, I believe, in this particular case. The fact that he was up there, demanding these mandates for people just to participate in daily life, crazy.
Yeah, it's fucking mental. What's your I'm going to ask you a question. And if you don't want to answer it, then that's fair enough, honestly. But what is your attitude towards this? What is your attitude moving forward? What sort of attitude have you got? Do you feel despondent, beat down, or do you feel determined? Does it make you feel more determined? I mean, how do you feel about going forward?
It's hard. It's a hard way to put it. It's more so the uncertainty, because the way I've been treated already, you don't feel as though you're heading somewhere that you're going to get justice. You feel as though you're being railroaded somewhere. So in that respect, I'm a little bit worried, because the charges they try to put against you, they're high enough that they can then attach an attachment order to your income. Now, that would be, anybody in my situation would be the same. The thoughts of anybody coming anywhere next to near my income is terrifying, because we can't make what we have stretch as it is. Jimmy will tell you, I've had no central heating in the house. I use, as is very popular now in England, the little diesel heaters.
They're
So
actually a really cool looking device. We should chat about these sometime, but carry on, Gareth.
Yep. So we basically use that to save money. But going forward, I fully hope that they present the CCTV footage, because that will clear my name. If the guards say that they can't produce the CCTV footage, that means it's going to be face value. It's going to be a senator's word against mine, which I know what way that will go. Now, I do have witnesses, but I don't expect to be able to call them, put it that way. I reckon they're going to try and push this through very quickly. I reckon they're using these cases to stop people from being vocal towards their TDs and their elected officials, and telling them that what they're doing is not what the people want. It's not what we agreed to. I never asked to be discriminated against. I never asked for my partner to be put out of work. I never asked for society to come to a stop and then be unjustly kind of damaged by it. It has severely affected our income, and nobody takes responsibility for it. I tried to question the TD on it, and that has resulted in me landing in court with €2,000 worth of fines if I'm found guilty. The only thing that's going to get me out of it is the CCTV, which will prove I was already in the shopping centre. If not, I'll have witnesses. But none of this has followed any sort of protocol, any sort of instructions. From the paperwork arriving in my house to showing up at court, where you can't actually go in and watch proceedings and see how things are conducted. You're left outside to sit on a cold balcony, no facilities, for hours, 5, 6 hours at a time. Then you're brought in, and it's supermarket sweep. It's in and out in as quick a possible time as possible. They don't like you answering back or having an opinion or asking a question. Even when Jimmy was present beside me and I asked a question, I had a guard to my right hand side telling me to shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. But yet I'm entitled to ask these questions because this is my time. They're wasting, dragging me through this, and they have nothing to show for it. And every time I ask for the evidence, I wait a month, and then I get one piece. And then I ask for the video footage. I ask for witness statements, and all I got was the injured party statement. So now I'm waiting on the CCTV, and I'm waiting from a statement from any members of the large crowd that were apparently present. So
what worries me most about this particular case, though, Gareth, is the fact that you're defending yourself, and it's probably not something that you actually wanted to do, probably, but because of Gareth's particular situation, like, you know, they can't afford even the basic entry fee to get legal representation, which is like, I don't know what the price is. Like so Gareth is going through this. He's really on his own on this one, like, you know, and it's kind of like a worrying situation because of the fact that probably you don't have very little experience in courts, and probably the first time you were ever in a court in your life, like, so his lack of knowledge of procedure and stuff like that, it's kind of worrying for me looking on, like, you know, that's the pit, because like a lot of these because what I do know about how the courts work and the court system is that, like, normally a claim is made, and then you have to rebut that claim, and you go through this three-part process with the between the claimant and the alleged defendant. Like, you know, it's just, so you'd have your claimant, they say you done X, Y, Z, and then all these records and to and fro would be recorded in the notices and the pleadings of the parties, which are normally registered in through the court system. Like, but because the way I see it, that there's been no proper notice in this matter, like there's been no opportunity for him to rebut any such claims. In fact, it seems to me that he hasn't even really been charged with anything, really, because there's been no official interview by the Gardaí. It's like, this just sounds so off. Like,
I think probably what I'd do is I'd wait for him to come and get me. I think that's what I'd do. And then once you're inside, then they've got to give you everything, haven't they? Yeah, you're not going to be in for very long. They're not even going to come and get you. That's what I'd do. I'd just wait it out. I'd just sit it out, and I'd just wait. I'd just say, you want me, you come and get me. Because what's point in you going the whole way down there and then having a whole day where you're just sat waiting and what have you? If they come and get you, at least you're going to be sat in cell for a start to wait before you go to court. You go into court, and then you get dealt with, and then they'll release you because you'll ask for discovery on everything, and then it's done. That's the way I do it. I think that's the way I do it. This is not legal advice, by the way, and I live in the United Kingdom, and I don't know what, but I know that's if they piss me about like that, and I've been in court plenty of times. And the other thing that you've got to know about the courts is, you've got to be on the ball, and you've got to know what you're doing. So get as much advice as you can, because they fucking really hate litigating persons. You know, people defending themselves. So they really fucking hate that. They see that as like an affront to the system that they're upholding and all that sort of shit. So you're already climbing a fucking mountain, but let them fucking come to you. I'd forget about it until they come and arrest you. And like you say, you're not working out, are you? So it's not like you're going anywhere. You'll get some fucking free snap. I'm just saying, let them come to you. I won't be fucking worrying about it. That's advice from a human being to another human being, and not legal advice or any such like.
That's
No,
how
no,
you
it's just
deal with it, Julie.
well, that's it, Jason. And to be honest, it almost came to that. They had already issued the warrant for my arrest on that Tuesday evening. So I had to highlight to the judge that Jimmy was with me all day and that one of us was always outside the courtroom in order for her to cancel out the warrant for my arrest. But yeah, it certainly would have been easier. The only problem is you don't know exactly when they're going to arrive at the door. It could be the week before the court case, or it could be the morning off. That would be my big concern there.
But you see, if they hold you in custody, if this is the same as in this country, if they hold you in custody and it's only this by far is only a summary offence on the whole, so it's not an indictable offence. If I'm reading that the Irish system is the same as the British system, then they won't be holding you in anywhere. So you'll be out. You'll go into court. They'll say to you, why did you not come and say, well, I didn't know. And then say, well, they'll say ignorance is not a fucking defence. And say, well, I'm not saying I'm ignorant. I'm saying I didn't know. That's two completely different fucking things. So, you've got to have just go in. And just wait for them to come and get you. First of all, you don't have to fucking make your own way there. All you've got to do is make sure you've got your fare home in your pocket when you go. That's all you've got to do, because then they'll take you there. You'll be in fucking cell, so you'll not be sat outside. There'll be no confusion about whether or not you're going in or not. You'll be in there, and they won't be able to hold you because it's a summary offence. So what all they'll do is they'll hear it there and then you can ask for discovery, which you're entitled to, full discovery. And
well, that's pretty much where we. That's where we are now, Jason. We're just waiting on the last bits of the discovery now. So I'm back in court next month, and I'm still waiting on the CCTV footage that they claim has me running across the road and besetting him as he entered the shopping centre. Because, as I stated, I was walking out of the shopping centre. It was a purely chance encounter. And with the morning I'd had, that was it. I was asking my question. I was asking why the likes of my family were being discriminated against. It was the only way to put it at the time. Because there was nothing to justify what had happened to us. And to be responded with a mask and then to be told to F off, that's when I bit back. And that was the extent of it. I literally bit back. I called him what I thought he was. So
you're entitled to do that, though.
Oh yeah, I know, fully entitled. So everything that's happened afterwards has just been because he's been able to have these charges pressed. I haven't actually had any court time. I've just been summoned.
You've not even been questioned.
Nothing. Nothing. So I believe all of this is going to head down the road.
Let them come and get you if they want to take you to court. You're getting honestly, it's a fucking parking ticket that gives you. Wait for them to come to get you. Say, I want all fucking discovery. If you don't get it, by the time it's next on, don't waste your time. Wait for them to come and get you. They'll come and get you. They'll take you down there, and then you get your bus fare home. And, it gets adjourned. Fuck them. Stop. Listen.
Fuck them.
Exactly. There's only John Smith says here, if he's not getting the info he's entitled to, then complain to the Information Commissioner's office. Well, don't do that. I'll tell you what you do is you don't turn up. If you haven't got discovery by the time you go to the next court case, don't turn up. And when you don't turn up, they'll issue a warrant for you. They'll come and get you. They'll take you in front of court. And then you can say in front of court, I didn't get discovery. See, that's better than complaining and writing a letter to the commissioner because you're saying it to a magistrate and it's on the record. I didn't get discovery. I thought that it would naturally be. You're not a lawyer. You don't know that it won't be. You just thought, well, I didn't have discovery, so it's going to be adjourned. And so, plead like that. Just use them against themselves. See what I mean? So that you become a thorn in the side. Right to commissioner's going to do no. He's going to see it. His secretary's going to see it and fucking bin it. That's all it's going to happen. Or you'll get a standard response back. That's not even worth it. Be a thorn in the side of the people that are on the fucking front line that are having to do all this shit. Be a thorn in their side. Make them come for you. Take you down to cells. It's a fucking few hours in cells. Get in fucking cells. Get in front of magistrate. Then you can. It's on the record. You've said I didn't get any discovery. It's they're missing this discovery, and I just naturally assume because I'm just a layperson that there was that it were going to be adjourned. And then it'll be adjourned again, and then it's on all on record. You've been a right thorn in the side. You'll soon fuck off.
I mean, I've seen the instrument that they're using against him, like the charge that's been levied at him by this copper. Like, it's the most pathetic piece of garbage I've ever read in my whole existence, man. It's really like it's like there's nothing that could be considered a bloody crime on it, nothing. It was just pathetic, like absolutely pathetic, like such bullshit, such petty bullshit. It's like nuts.
But everything's petty bullshit nowadays, isn't it? Petty fucking bullshit. There's all these people having to work on this, all this fucking documentation and everything, just so that this bloke here, Gareth, who's said his piece, right? If the bloke were a real fucking man, it had been, well, all right, wait, I'm bound to get that. Whatever he thinks, he should be thinking. If you're a real man, you just think, well, I'm bound to get that, and fucking carry on with his day and his life. It's not like he came after him, is it?
It's like odd. It's like this legislation that they're bringing in now, and I assume this is all part of this new hate speech legislation which came in at the end of 2022, and it's primarily designed to protect like sort of special groups, like say traveller families or maybe foreigners or people of and their color, all this bullshit, right? But here we have a politician who is obviously getting a lot of backlash from the community at large over presumably his stance on these mandates, and he knows it, and he's thinking that he's going to use this as a shield and maybe set a precedent that like now politicians can be considered a protective part of the community, and you can't say boo to them. Is this where this is going, do you think, Gareth?
Yeah, that's what I was saying that to you earlier on, Jimmy. I reckon it's all part of the same censorship. They're very public when they shut people down, and they don't discuss the reason why people are speaking up in the first place. They only discuss that they've managed to shut them down. This person has been found guilty of X, Y, and Z. It's very rarely they go into the specifics of why that person found himself to be aggravated enough to draw the attention to himself and approach a politician or a guard or any other civil servant that are basically trying to push rules on us that they have no right to be doing. We don't elect them to micromanage our lives. We don't elect them to tell us who can come and go from our houses. We don't elect them to tell us what shops we can go to and where we can and cannot work. And when they come out and tell you that you shouldn't be on the roster, you shouldn't be allowed into shops, your children aren't allowed on the school bus, your children aren't allowed into play areas, your child is going to miss his confirmation. When they come out and they start telling you all of that, people do bite back. And they're using these laws specifically to shut people like me up, people that have been truly discriminated against through all their measures the last 3 years. We've been negatively impacted by every single part of COVID, except for the fact that I've never actually had it or witnessed it here in my family. None of my children are sick. They've never been sick. But through sheer fear-mongering, they weren't allowed on the school bus. They weren't allowed to have their confirmation. They weren't allowed to meet up with their friends. they're going to bring more laws in. There's more laws on the way for them to, as you said, protect the political class, because these people feel they need protection because they're not representing the families of the towns that they're in. And as I said, I'm aware of at least 5 others that are being brought to court in very similar circumstances to me, same charges. There's another man, I believe, down in Cork who just had his court case adjourned against Micheál Martin. And there's another reporter in Dublin, and he's up on a couple of Section 6 charges, again, for asking questions. And he has his own YouTube channel. But he has said it several times that he is aware then of even more people through his subscription network that are being brought through this Section 6. So I believe because the politicians aren't having to put their names to it, and it's going through the courts as the guards against the individual, I believe the politicians are using this left, right, and centre to shut people down. And it is a hate speech law, but they've absolutely prostituted it to use it their way and their way only. Because, again, people are going to laugh. They're not going to believe my situation. We have people calling to my house. We had 9 people call to my house in 8 weeks, threatening to change the locks and going around the back of the house and taking pictures. And it turns out my landlord is in difficulty with the banks, but I'm paying the rent. So I rang the guards because these people that are calling to my house are not identifying themselves. They say they're here on behalf of a client. They're doing an occupancy check. And if they find the house empty, they'll change the locks and the belongings will be thrown out. So this is the whole grasp of my situation. And I know I don't tell it right. I don't tell it in order. I don't like telling it full stop because I can't believe I'm here. I've always worked. I've always looked after my own family. I'm a father. I have brought my kids up with social skills and problem solving abilities because I like to fix things, and I sit my kids down and I show them everything I do. But none of that is any good to me when we're being targeted by the state, and when we speak up, that same targeting system just locks on again. But the person that's targeting you doesn't even have to put their name on paper. So on paper, my accuser is the guard on behalf of the politician. And it takes me a bit of time to get going and thinking, but they recently brought in, and the two of you will agree, what's called the hearsay rule here in Ireland. And the hearsay rule means that a guard can go into court and give evidence without any paper backup or anything to confirm what he's saying. And the judge can accept that as sworn evidence, and it can't be refuted, basically. It's under the hearsay rule. Are you aware of that?
No, although I'm aware of that's how the Garda operate. Like on a lot of cases, like even all these alleged traffic infringements that people go through, and that'd be all hearsay. Like because you could be stopped by a Garda, like, and he might have no witnesses, and basically it'd be your word against his, and and this has always been the same in this country, where a lone Garda can use his hearsay against somebody else, like, and the Garda will always be believed in a court, and this is the way this is the justice system here in Ireland, and it's probably the same in England too. Like, although it's probably a bit more professional. Like, you never see you never see a lone Bobby. I'd say they're always in pairs when you see them. Like, but here in Ireland, like, it could be just one cop, and and one cop can have you sent to prison. That's the way it is here. Mad.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And if you, like I said, we have people calling to the house. They won't identify themselves. We contacted the guards. We had the guards out to the house um, 11 times in 9 weeks. And every time the person at the door realized that the guards had been contacted, they were fleeing in their car. So to this date, I don't know who they were. I don't know where they were from. I don't know what they wanted. The guards were called 11 times. I asked to press charges on these people. I got a couple of them on CCTV. They walk into my garden. They take photographs of my car. They walk down the side of the house. They try the back gate. Then they'll come around and look in the front window. And then they'll bang on the door. I ring the guards. And they flee. Now, the guards could take an hour to arrive. But as soon as you pick up the phone and say you're ringing the guards, they flee. I still don't know who these people were. And like I said to you, Jimmy, I've been trying now for 6 weeks to get any sort of guard or reference number to show that I have had 10 weeks of harassment from unknown persons. But yet I can't get them to move forward on it. And then here's a politician who says that somebody said boo to him, and the full weight of the law comes down on the other person. I've never been committed of a crime in my life. This is what will be my third appearance in court in my life. So when you say they're trying to silence people, Jimmy, yes, you're absolutely right. Because I know, because I've been trying to get charges pressed on unknown people attending my house, and they won't do anything. So, and then yet I'm in court for calling
Would it be
somebody
fair?
else.
Would it be fair to assume that these people calling to your door may not be anything got to do with you or your case, and it could be a result of maybe actions being taken against your landlord? Because I think the way I see things playing out now at the moment, we have a lot of people who bought up like loads of properties during the boom times, and they probably shouldn't have, right? Because we know that there was loans being given out to people who should never have got loans, and people were in this sort of like headspace where they were going to make a lot of money from rentals in the future. But now that we're in a sort of a real crunch situation, and I think there's some sort of moratorium coming to an end sometime later this year. And a lot of people are probably going to lose a lot of these homes that they had, so would it be fair to assume that these people calling to your home and doing these occupancy checks might not be there just for you, but could be trouble that your landlord is in, maybe?
Oh yeah, Jimmy, like it's nothing to do with me. As I said, it is absolutely nothing to do. I pay my rent. This is something that's absolutely outside of my control. But the fact of the matter is, these people still call to the door at all hours. They walk around the house and they don't identify themselves. When I have video footage, they point blank refuse to identify themselves. Now that causes a massive amount of fear on my partner. I report it to the guards. We give statements. Now we're asking for a reference number so that we can try and take the company responsible to court. Because I have never had any interaction with this company. I don't know who they are. The guards apparently know the company, but I haven't been furnished with the actual details of it. All of this is on top of everything else that we deal with in this house. And again,
this company, Gareth, if I remember you correctly, did you say the name of this particular company is Black Castle?
It's Black Castle or Blackwater. I am just going to Google it again while I talk. It's right. Blackwater.
Blackwater. Okay, that's interesting. But you were saying that there's very little online about them, if nothing at all.
That's it. It just says that they're a management company and they're ex-civil servants, guards, police officers, things like that.
Provosts, or maybe even sort of like, because we know, like from experience, like I know there was a lot of issues like with evictions going on around the country, and there were links to loyalist paramilitaries and all sorts of nefarious characters, and you know, God only knows who's calling to your door at the end of the day.
Well, this is why I bring it up, Jimmy, because as you said, there is a moratorium on evictions here in the Republic of Ireland, which means that these people call into my house for whatever reason, doesn't matter. They're doing it during a ban on evictions, which means it's harassment, because that's all they're doing is harassing us. So, although it has nothing got to do with me, it's between my landlord and the bank. This company, I believe, are trying to get us out of the tenancy so that the landlord is then left with an empty house. And it would be much easier for them to maybe claim the empty house than with the landlord having tenants. Now, as you know, the housing situation in Ireland, there's nowhere for us to go if we need to leave this house. Nowhere. So, again, that adds more stress. We know we're going to be hounded in 2 months' time, but we've nowhere to go and we've no facility to save up because every penny we have is being used to pay the rent because we get no state support. So we're just literally stuck in a grey area, having everything else weighing on us. We've just got used to it. Jason asked me, where did I see it going? What did I see was the hope? My hope is, as it's always been, try get back to who I was. Try get back to what the person I was. Being outgoing, being able to bring my kids on little adventures, go off exploring, random road trips, things like that. We can't do any of that for numerous reasons, which all compound the situation. We can't leave the house because we don't know what these people will do because the guards won't do anything and they just keep returning, even though there's a ban in the Republic of Ireland. We don't have the income to support a car, so I've had to give up the car. The car is non-existent. That leaves us isolated in a rural village with just one garage. Now, because we've got 5 children and I no longer have the 7-seater, we can't afford to go out as a family because we don't have the income. So we resorted now to just doing different things at home. As I showed you, I've made things out in the back garden. We do projects out in the back garden. We've got the blackboard in the kitchen. We go for walks down along the canal. But there's only so many times you can bring a child on the same walk before they just get absolutely fed up with it. And they just don't want to go anymore. If I see anything changing, will be my partner getting what she's owed from her employer. That will get us back on track somewhat. We'll be able to pay off some of the bills we have and get back on the road. Once I'm back on the road, that's it. We're back out. We're social again. We can travel and start looking for somewhere else. Because if the landlord hasn't resolved this problem, I don't see it getting resolved, and I can't sit around and wait. I'm going to have to try find somewhere else. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
that just means.
Well, if he's backed out, if he's already like in trouble, it sounds like he's been in trouble for some time and is probably well behind on his mortgage payments of his own. So, and the reason he's stopping is because he probably sees the writing on the wall too. And he's probably thinking, how is he going to exit out of his little issues? So it's a very, very tricky situation, you know. So I hope you do really well with this work relations case, and that it, you know, because your family deserve at least one fucking break in this whole mess, you know.
The only thing I have on that is that even to date, we still have no reason for my partner being taken off the roster. Her employee file is absolutely impeccable. There's nothing on it. And they took her off the roster, no notice, no anything. She only found out when she got a text message with the new roster gone out that evening. And that was it. Nobody could tell her anything. They dragged it out for 6 months. And at the end of it, they just did nothing. They just said it was unpaid leave. But it has caused so much damage to our family that is the one thing that we're praying goes okay. Will be the WRC. That fixes what's been taken from us for the last 12 months, basically, which was our income.
Yeah.
We can get our income sorted back out again, and then work on finding somewhere else. So, because unfortunately, social housing isn't an issue, as you know. The government missed their targets again, so that's them out the window.
I was just thinking, you know, you might have better luck if you took a ferry over to France, right? You and the family, and got the ferry straight back, threw your passports overboard on the way back, and then when you got to the coast, claim refugee status coming back in. You know, you might have better luck.
No, I don't think so. I think my luck would be that I'd land at Dublin Airport, and then there's a thing called the Amsterdam Treaty, which they would then pull me aside, and the Amsterdam Treaty would basically say that any undocumented that arrive in an EU country be sent back to the last safe zone. I believe they call it the Dublin 3 Accord, and this is what they're bringing people into this country that are discarding their paperwork. And there's actually an agreement in place since 1996 that should this occur, these people would be instantly returned back to their previous safe country. But our government are completely ignoring this. They're taking in as many as they can. It's severely affecting a family like my own, because now rent has become unimaginable and houses are like hen's teeth. I've no choice but to stay in the situation I'm in, and like Jason said, just absorb the stress and sleepless nights and the worry and everything else, in the hope that either government changes or something basically breaks. I'm at that point where everything seems to be intermittent, and I just can't get anything pinned down. I need something to break and break completely, so I can either fix it or throw it out. That's the only way I can describe it at this point.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping, like, I just Spanish put a link up there. Why don't you set up a Ko-fi account? Well, I know from chatting to Gareth that he doesn't want any support from me. You know, they take care of their own shit. Like, you know, and that was one of the things Gareth said to me is like, this is not about looking for support from other people. This is about things that are going on in this country, and he's going to go through this. I think that's what I've gathered from Gareth over the last week or so, is that like he's going to see this through because it's the right thing to do. And look, we do have to take a stand against unjust laws and silly mandates, silly fucking mandates, and all the bullshit that's coming with life at the moment. And your outlook is not that great for the future, like. But I thought, Gareth, that like I aligned with you in one sense, that you think that this is not about COVID or not about. You're thinking that there's something much bigger behind all this bullshit. You know, something which could be planetary threatening. You know, and I found that quite interesting because I don't often meet people who be thinking on the same wavelength that I do. You know. You still you still think that there's going to be something happening with the magnetosphere or the sun or something like that, and this is all just a push just to get get the digital IDs in now and do it quick. And if you don't have a digital ID, you're not getting in the bunker or something. What do you think?
Well, what's the easiest way of putting it? It's COVID came along, then you had your rabbit hole. The easiest way to try and explain it to people that I see is, if there's going to be no repercussions, if you know there's going to be no repercussions, this is what the politicians, they know there's no repercussions coming from it. They're just plowing ahead with their own agenda because they know they're warning us all the time. The WEF came out and warned about a pandemic. They warned about the pandemic in 2015. They patented it in 2015. They patented it again in 2017 and again in 2019. They warn us. They warn us all the time. It's just that we don't look. Nobody wants to look because we're given everything we need. We've no reason to go kind of hunting and foraging and stuff. We're given everything. But the problem is that all of this that we have all relies on one thing, and that's that the earth remain a constant the way it is now. Because if something changes, such as our electromagnetic field, if the poles continue to drift the way they're drifting, if there's more energy introduced into our atmosphere, if the sun has a solar eruption at the right time as we're passing, not even as we're passing, our magnetic field is already weakened. They've already showed us this in all the scientific papers and all their news releases and their South Atlantic anomaly that they have no idea what's causing it. Holes in the ozone layer fixing themselves and then reappearing again. Ice caps melting, not melting. The world is heating, it's not heating. And they tell us none of it can be explained. They want to bring mammoths, woolly mammoths back to Siberia because apparently having woolly mammoths trampling on the snow will compact it enough to reflect the heat back into space. And that will stop the permafrost from melting. And the permafrost holds unknown quantities of carbon. And they think that's going to wipe us out. None of this stuff has any logic to it. The only thing I see having logic to it is that everything runs in a sequence. Everything does. We have days, hours, weeks, months, whether they're man-made or not. The seasons. We have the seasons. We think we're the only body in the solar system that has seasons. If the sun has a season, and if it's 12,000 years long.
It does. I remember it. Seasons in the sun.
Yeah. But if it has a season, we would have record of it. So we look back 6,000 years and we see the half cycle, and there's your evidence. You go back another 6,000, you have evidence again, and there are different events that happened on the planet. The Heinrich event, I can't name them all now off the top of my head, but all this stuff is very accessible, and it all makes absolute perfect sense. It explains our weather being all over the place. It explains the fact that our world leaders seem to just think they can act with absolute contempt and treat people any which way they can and get away with it. Like, you don't go poking a dog and poking a dog and poking a dog because you know it's going to bite back. And they know people are eventually going to snap out of this coma and say, we don't elect you to run our lives. We elect you to manage the country.
We don't even fucking elect. We elect him to fucking rape us. That's what we elect him to do. Isn't it though?
Well, there is that too, but that aspect of it will go all the way back to your birth cert. The fact that you're imprisoned in the system. As everybody knows, through your birth cert. And everything then relies on commerce. And they have a fixed amount that they apply to your birth cert, and they know that you're going to pay them taxes. And that's all it is you pay taxes then the rest of your life. And so I see what's happening is basically, as other civilizations before us have fallen, they've all went through an event. And there's been numerous explanations for the event. The flooding, the meteorite, the pole flips, the ice age. But what causes all these things? What can affect everything? And that's when you start looking and you start realizing that our sun affects us directly and extremely quickly. NASA's own, even through my own research, NASA's own reports are saying that it can have effect on weather within 40 seconds of hitting our atmosphere. It's affecting the weather. And they're invisible energies that are thrown off by the sun, which are then energizing the magnetic field around the earth, from what I understand. And that in turn is what's causing our weather patterns to be out of sync with what we all remember. I don't ever remember it being so wet. I have been literally stuck in this house for 2 years because my car's off the road. And dry days are few and far between. But it's not a heavy rain, it's just an inconvenient rain. The more I go down that kind of rabbit hole and I look at different civilizations and the timing of their disappearances, and you look at other things, you look at Admiral Byrd, you look at trips to Antarctica, you start trying to figure out what else you're not being told. And then you start to retain all the information and you keep digging and digging and digging and digging. And it gets real scary. But no matter how scary it gets, you still realize it doesn't matter. It's a cycle. It happens. It's going to happen again. It will happen again after that. It doesn't mean the end. It doesn't mean people are going to get wiped out. What it means is the electric atmosphere of this planet is going to change, which means our electronic devices are all going to be cut. The Earth will get hit with a massive energy that will take out every electrical device. It happened before. It happened in the 1800s. We all know it happened with telegraph poles, that they could still send telegrams even with the battery units disconnected, because there was so much electricity in the atmosphere. Now, at the moment, you can see it in Brazil. People go to the top of the mountain in Brazil. They put their hands up in the air, and you've got little blue sparks coming off all their fingers because of the static electricity that's being pushed down. All of these things are starting to show up. It's not because they've always been there. It's because the Earth is going through a cycle, and this is what happens. I don't know. I could be absolutely mad. I hope I am. But everything you see around you is all explained when you understand how the sun is affecting this planet all the time. And there's nothing anybody can do. We're not going to be able to rely on technology. If you follow what the experts say, they say we've got 10 to 15 years before the sun will hit its solar maximum. They know this through ice cores and rock samples taken all around the world, because they know that the North Pole and the South Pole move. They know that there's a flash coming. They know that the Earth gets hit with extra radiation. And yet they don't say anything. Nobody's ever taught anything in school about how the sun influences our weather. Einstein knew it, but it all got covered up then, because his protege, the fellow working with him, was a CIA agent, who I can't remember his name, but he was a CIA agent. He published the book and then put Einstein down as like a foreword at the beginning of the book. But Einstein never actually accepted anything that he'd written. There's nothing to say that Einstein agreed with anything this person had written. But what he wrote went to go on to be mainstream science. Catastrophism. It was about 1920 when it all changed, and all this information started getting suppressed. And now it's all starting to come back out again. And you can say it's a conspiracy theory, you can say this and that, but until you actually start looking into it and you start seeing everything is going exactly the way they predict it would. You've got stars doing mini novas. You've got NASA then confirming it. So you've got a third party now confirming what the experts are saying is going to happen. And they give you a brief outline. They tell you, this is coming, this is coming. You'll start to notice the weather, you'll start to notice X, Y, and Z. And then you have the likes of NASA or the Lancet or any of them journals coming out and confirming what the experts have told you, and you're worried that it might be a conspiracy theorist. But then you've got third parties coming out giving you the actual evidence that this is happening. GPS satellites, they have to be updated more often now because with the North and South Pole moving, GPS is going out of sync with the globe.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
There-
even the planes,
there's-
even they also have to update the plane software constantly because of these changes. It's quite fascinating. Like, I definitely agree that there's a great reset coming. Like, and I don't think it's the great reset like that Klaus Schwab is coming in. I'm thinking that like we're probably due something to
Well,
happen because
if it's a great reset that takes out technology, we will be eating bugs. And we will have nothing. And we'll have no choice to be happy because we'll have nothing else. And
You
people
see, I've
just,
got a fucking bow and arrow, so I'm going to be all right.
it's okay.
I
I've got
know,
a
but
few
most
fat neighbors
people
here.
don't know how to live beyond the debit card.
Oh, no, of course not. No, people don't. No, they'll be fucked. I agree, they'll be fucked. And you know what? That's their fucking problem, not my bastard. I'll be able to survive. I know I'll be able to survive. So, and, you know, would I want to? That's another thing. But, you know, I know I'd be
Yeah.
able to fucking survive if it came to it.
And
I know they fucking want it to be fucking gone. They're the zombies in the zombie movie. They've just lost the phones and everything and all the fucking thing, and they're just fucking screaming and going mad and just fucking eating all that's in front of them.
that's it. It's people won't look up from their phones. They'll believe everything that's broadcast directly to their faces. None of us would be here if there wasn't survivors the last time around. Put it that way. The only thing is that we're so reliant on technology, and technology is so fragile that if it was to disappear overnight, or you couldn't get onto your social networks and find out how long the internet's going to be off, or get onto your social networks and find out has your neighbour's electricity gone out as well. Like, just a simple browse on social networks will show you. People don't call into their neighbour next door anymore. They just message them on social media. Is your electricity gone? Have you got water? Like, when people can't even do that, that's when panic will set in. Because there'll be no ATMs. There'll be no going to the shop. There'll be no buying anything because people don't carry cash anymore. And they're going to force us down this road of electric cars and a cashless society, knowing full well that the whole system is going to implode.
Yeah, the electric cars is.
Anybody these days who gets a knock at the door, they don't think, oh, it's one of the neighbours that's probably, you know, wants to ask something or wants a cup of sugar or fucking something like that. You know, they're suspicious of anybody who's knocking at the door at night, and that's just the way society's gone. You know, it's not like fucking old days. I remember like Brenda would just walk in fucking back door. You know, Brenda from next door walking back door, wanting, you know, my mother's catalogue money and shit like that. And I remember a woman next door to us who fucking used to come round and like ask to use phone and use his phone and be on it for like fucking like hours and leave fucking 10 pence behind. You know what I mean? All this, none of that shit now, because, you know, you fuck if it all goes wrong, you're on your own. People don't interact with each other anymore, not in a personal way.
Oh, sure. Even when Jimmy was with me at the courtroom, if I needed to go to the toilet, I was approaching people, introducing myself, and asking them if my name got called, would you tell them I've gone to the toilet? And people they looked shocked that I'd even walked up to them. And they're like, why are you telling me your name? I was like, you're standing here, you're going to be caught, you're getting dragged through the same stuff as me. I need to use the toilet. It would be nice if somebody would listen. People don't want to talk to people. It's social engineering. It's been run this way since the mid-90s.
It is, and you know, I don't know what they're fucking spraying it now. They're up to something, but you know the amount of people that are so they seem so fucking downbeat and bedraggled. You know what I mean? And so fucking everything's such a fucking such a you know. It's for me. Everything's a big fucking deal. For me to do something, it's a big deal. Even 12 stairs in my lift. I reckon what they're doing with skies. I reckon we're all stoned. I reckon we're fucking half stoned or something like that. You know, because there seems to be a lot of it. People that just can't fucking be arsed. Who really can't be arsed or you know, have got no energy or, you know, I mean, my missus goes to bed at fucking 9 o'clock.
The way I would put it, Jason, is we're all suffering from depression because of the loss of our normal lives. We've all suffered a loss, and that loss has been our lives up to the point 3 years ago. It's gone, and it feels like it's passed away, and we're all depressed because of it.
We're grieving for it. Yeah, we're grieving for our old life.
That's exactly what it is.
That's very good. Very, very, very good point. Yeah, we're all in a state of grief because the old life is gone. Fucking hell.
Before we get time to figure out what we're going through or go through any sort of a process, they're just going to keep throwing more and more emergencies at us. Like electric cars everywhere. You have Sweden now is banning electric cars because of the CO2 footprint of them.
Well, I think Mr. Gates came out the other day, and he did give us a bit of a heads up. He said Bill Gates issued a warning during his visit to Australia about the impending threat of another pandemic, one that could be much more devastating than COOF and could be man-made, he said. Right? So, you know, they always tell us in advance, basically. So, you know, if he's coming out and saying it, we should heed. And do you know what? The next one might be the real one. You know, this is one of the things that I just be playing on the back of my head, that the next one will be the real one.
Oh, it's a roller coaster and half, this fucker, innit, being alive. You know, we're free to get on, but fuck me, you really want to get off pretty fucking soon, don't you? Afterwards, Jesus Christ. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, listen,
we're coming up on the 2-hour mark.
Yes, we are. And if I do it under 2 hours, then it automatically goes up on Odyssey. So, who, by the way, that is Odyssey. There is an Odyssey channel. We'll do more stuff. I'll tell you more about other stuff. We're going to do Rumble and all that as soon as we get enough fucking subscribers, which we haven't at the moment. And we're going to do an after show as well. So, are you going to stick around for after show work, Gareth? There'll be some listeners come on and they might just want to ask you a few questions, and you know, we just have a chat afterwards. Are you going to stick around for that? Yeah. I'm going to take a couple of minutes of a break, and then I'll be back to you.
No problem, Gareth. Cool. No problem.
Yeah. So
give me about 10 minutes, and I'll be back.
So.
All right, mate. Will you stop there?
Take it easy, Lex.
Give you 10 minutes. Listen, thanks for coming. Thanks to Gareth for coming on. He's gone off. He'll be on in the after chat in about 10 minutes. Interesting show, that, Jimmy. What do you reckon? Very interesting.
Yeah, it's a shocking story. What the family's been through. The whole lot of them. Like, it's like, if it was just a court case, fair enough, we could deal with just a court case. But I think it's the accumulation of all the other mitigating. Yeah, and he didn't even get into talking about what happened to the children at the school, and that's why they're now homeschooling us. It's like, you know, it's poor chap, man. He's really had tough, like, and his wife, and then trying to feed the little fellas as well too. So 5 children is not a small thing, you know.
No, it's not. No, you feel for them as well. But yeah, anyway, good story tonight. Thanks to everybody that's been listening and the people who have been taking part in the chat. I'll pop the after chat in the chat box here, and if you want to pop on the after chat, let's see, have we got anyone on fucking Facebook? Yeah, what fuck. 41 people, 40 people on YouTube, fucking one on Twitch. I like enjoy. Hello, Twitch listener. Spread it amongst your fellow Twitchers. Spread the word of Raconteurs.
We're going to go viral.
We're going to go viral. Yeah, cheers
Yeah.
to everybody who's who will listen afterwards. We really do appreciate it. Tell anybody who needs us about us, and we'll see you on Friday night. Cheers, Jimmy, mate. I'm going to end it now.
Good night, everyone.
We're under the 2 hours that go on to our Odyssey. You don't forget cooking Monday, Wednesday. Steve Turgoose and
Thursday.
all the other people. Jimmy O, Wigan Joker. Be back in February. Take care. Ta-ra,